In this video, I'm going to be rating my favorite aircraft of all time, the Gripen, and in this case particularly the Gripen C. First off, the Gripen C has a max speed of 2,240 kilometers per hour, which fun fact makes it faster than the Eurofighter's top speed, and on the deck you can reach Mach 1.2. In addition to that, you do have a pretty good acceleration because you are pretty lightweight, although the acceleration isn't as good as other vehicles in this BR bracket, so that's mainly what's weighing down the Gripen. Therefore, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for speed. Moving over to agility, this thing is only 12 tons in weight, so this makes it one of the ideal dogfighters in this BR bracket. Although sadly, you still will struggle against any 14.0 because their engine output is just so much better than yours. The Gripen C mainly struggled against the Eurofighter and the Rafale, which kind of makes sense. Depending on the pilot, the J10 can also win against the Gripen in a dogfight, although for the most part, anything at 13.7 or below, you'll win against. So for maneuverability, I'm going to give this thing 8 out of 10. Moving over to offensive armament, the Gripen Cs mainly get access to AM-120s and AM-9Ms, which is technically one of the best loadouts in the game, although it does struggle in close combat situations. In addition, the Gripen can only carry a maximum of 6 missiles and a maximum of 4 AMRAAMs. If I'm not wrong, I believe that is the least amount of missiles an aircraft is carrying at 13.7. In addition to all of that, of course, you do get a 27mm cannon that is just like a dream. It's perfect. Although on the downside, you do only have access to 120 cannon rounds. So for its offensive armament, since it's lacking so much and it does have some drawbacks, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Moving over to defense, the Gripen could carry over 700 countermeasures if you take all of the BOL pods. This is by far the most in this BR bracket by far. In addition to all of that, you do get a good RWR, although you are notably lacking a voice warning system. So for defense, I'm going to give the Gripen a 9 out of 10 just because it is missing the voice warning system, so it's kind of hard to know where missiles are coming from 24/7. Moving on to the Gripen C's cast ability, it does get a wide range of munitions to chuck at enemies. This does include GBUs, glide bombs, JDAMs, 3 different types of Mavericks, and of course you do get the Swedish dumb munitions too. Although you do have really low potential because you are limited to only 4 pylons of munitions. This technically makes it one of the worst cast aircraft at 13.7. Every other aircraft in this BR bracket can carry a lot more ordnance. That being said, it can still get the job done pretty well, but I'm still going to give it a 5 out of 10 for cast ability. Moving over to its electronics, it does not have an ASA or a PACER radar, so it is stuck with the mechanical PD radar. That being said, it's still a pretty good radar in 13.7. You're also stuck with the Lightning 2 targeting pod, which isn't that bad, and it does have thermals, although it's not a Lightning 3 targeting pod. Previously mentioned, it does have RWR, and it is lacking a voice warning system. Although as a perk to all those sim players, the cockpit is decked out with all the electronics you'll ever need. So for the electronics, I'm going to give this thing a 7 out of 10. Moving over to durability, the Gripen is a delta wing, so you wouldn't expect this thing to be tanky at all. But in reality, the Gripen C is absolutely a tank for some reason. The amount of times I survived missiles and cannon strafes is just unreal. In the clip that's showing right now, I managed to survive some cannon strafes from an ADF and still come out on top. And then in the next clip you're about to see, I survived a missile and still came out on top against another enemy. In the beginning of this video, and I think on the Vietnam map, I managed to tank an entire missile without any wings, fly back RTB, and then clutch the game. So yes, the Gripen is getting a 10 out of 10 for durability. Moving over to difficulty, this is probably the best beginner aircraft for top tier. It's relatively easy to use, it can kind of be flexible in any position, so any playstyle is actually relevant, and it's a pretty forgiving aircraft that's quite easy to learn. But on the downside, you do need to know how to dodge Fox 3s relatively easily, and you have to know how to use them. So with 1 being the hardest and 10 being the easiest, I'm going to give the Gripen a nice rating of a 6. As for the fun value, I find the Gripen extremely fun to use compared to other aircraft. You do have the ability to play CAS, BVR, close combat, it can pretty much do it all. The only time the Gripen really isn't that fun is when you run out of missiles because you are playing against a bunch of missile spammers and you just have cannons. In addition to that, you can be facing SPAA that outrange you, and you have less ordnance than other teammates. So playing CAS can be kind of dull sometimes. So with 10 being the most fun, I'm going to give the Gripen a 7 out of 10. Moving over to value, all the Gripen variants are tech tree aircraft. So they're obtainable, but they just don't provide any premium boost to users. A perk they provide though is the fact that they can fill basically any position the user wants to. And for nations like Thailand and Sweden, you're basically just going to get Gripen after Gripen, so it may get a little repetitive. That being said, this is still a pretty good aircraft that brings a lot of value to your lineup. That being said, a lot of people I speak with actually don't really like the Gripen's playstyle. They much rather play BVR and just missile spam, which is understandable. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for value. This gives the Gripen C an overall value of a 71 out of 100. And on my grading scale, that gives the Gripen C a B rating. Comparatively, this is the same exact score I gave the Rafale, and the Typhoon scored 1 point higher, placing at 72. Overall, I highly recommend the Gripen C and absolutely love playing this vehicle in any game mode I'm thrown into. And if you want to play the Gripen C correctly, you basically want to play defensive and just spam ram people in front of you. Although you do have to prioritize your aircraft survival over everything else.